Hello everyone, I'm going to be using Board Game Geek to go through my anticipated games for 2025. Let's jump into the list. One that I'm really excited to play is Koi. Now this is a game from DV Games and it's the team behind Bonsai. Well, they're back with Koi, and wow, does this look good. So again, they have got sort of this hexagon thing going on that you're building out in terms of this koi pond. But what is that we spot right here? They are translucent tiles with the koi fish on them, and multiple sizes as well. We've got the sort of just 1 hex, 2 hex, 3 hexes. They're all sort of different colours. It's got things floating on there. You've got things around the edge. You've got like the bridge, the little they're not shrine things. I can't quite remember what these are called, but it really looks like a cool sort of plus from Bonsai. That was this 2D thing that you were building out. This has a 3D pop to it and a koi pond. I think it looks really cool. I want to play Koi this year. Do I need to say much more than it's an Azul game? I don't think any of them have been bad. I've not played the micro versions, the more travelable versions, but I've really loved Azul and Azul Summer Pavilion. Stained Glass was still a solid game, but I don't think it's as good as the other two. Then there was the Queen's one, which was also decent, a very playable and enjoyable one. I don't think it reached the heights of the first or third one, but one that's specifically aimed for 2 players. Now, this is a confusing one for me. I like Azul at 2 players. I think it's absolutely great there. So what have they actually done? Now, this is down the same lines, though, that I like, say, Splendor, and Splendor Duel works really well for 2. So the original Splendor worked all right at 2, but they had a cool twist on it. So I'm expecting something like that. It looks like this board, there's something a little bit more going on. I'm excited to see what this brings. So Azul Duel is definitely on my anticipated list. I'm a huge fan of trick-taking games, and, well, Lord of the Rings, I'm certainly not opposed to that as a theme. I think it's certainly a cool one. And this seems like it's a sort of not the crew, but cooperative trick-taking with a bit of a story going on. It seems like it's not necessarily as just quick trick-taking and play another round game as the crew. It's a bit more read a bit of story, see why this character's there. But I definitely want to give this one a go. I think it sounds like there's at least like 18 chapters. I might be slightly wrong on that, but that means there's 18 things where it's like, oh, these characters with this slight rule tweak and trick taking, which is always goodness, in a very small, nice sort of looking production from what I can tell. I'm excited to play this one, and I think this is basically out. So yeah, this is probably the one on the list that you can already play if you really want to. A fun one for the list is Stack of Cats, or Stacko Cats, and well, from the name you can kind of understand exactly what you're doing in this game. You are, yes, literally stacking cats. I like dexterity games, and I think this is a fun one. It just certainly looks and grabs me as a this looks entertaining, and I think people will be drawn to giving this one a go. And well, I've liked other ones previously, like Catch the Moon. I'm a huge fan of that one, and that's ladders. No one really cares about ladders, but this one with cats, I think I could see it certainly being played by people that otherwise might go, I don't care too much about board games. I think this one looks cool, and it looks like you can hang things off and, you know, with the tails dangle things off like any good dexterity game. So I want to check this one out. That's Stacko Cats. I was really lucky to be able to actually interview one of the developers on this game, Lairs, and it sounds so cool. I'd certainly recommend, if you're at least interested, going and listening to that interview, because we spoke about some of how it was developed, some of the play testing, that sort of stuff. But this is a 2-player game. I love me some 2-player games, and in this, not only are you creating a dungeon for your opponent to go through, they are also creating a lair of their own for you to go through. So you get the best of both worlds. It's not just a case of like an like asymmetry of I'm the dungeon, you're the adventurer. You get to do a bit of both. You are trying on one half to sort of put the monsters and the walls and traps in the right place, and in the other one avoid those to get the loot. I like the idea of it, and it doesn't hurt that it looks really nice as well. And also looks relatively small. So I'm very much on board with this. I want to give Lairs a go. It's scary almost to say that Project L came out 5 years ago in 2020. Which also doesn't feel like it should be 5 years ago, but it actually is. Well, that team are back with Square One. And, well, if you've seen Project L, which is like a polyomino tile placement, you've kind of seen this one a little bit as well. Yeah, it's a little bit different. It's, you know, how you're claiming the little squares, but it looks very similar vibes. Here we go, look. So you are filling in these sections. It seems very similar. You're not necessarily creating these shapes, but you are getting combinations of those squares that also do still have polyomino shapes drawn onto them. In terms of, like, there's 2s, there's L's, there's T's, that sort of stuff. I really liked Project L, and that's made me put this one on my list to want to play it in 2025. That is Square One. If you had a chance to watch my top 100, you'll definitely notice that some heavier games moved down the list while lighter ones moved up, just because recently, in recent times, well, I've needed sort of smaller games, lighter games to hit the table, simply because we don't have like 2 hours to play Terraforming Mars every week. So, with that in mind, El Paso seems like a really good game for me. They're taking Great Western Trail, they're shrinking the board down. Let's have a look at this. Like, the board is not even half the size, maybe a third of the size, maybe a quarter of the size of the one in normal Great Western Trail. But you've still got, from what I can tell, exactly what you want from it. You've got spaces that you can build on. You've got, you know, the route that you're going down. In this case, you can go left or right. You have those options, which I really like about the Great Western Trail board. You've got your Hand of Cows. What an amazing phrase that actually is, a Hand of Cows. And you've got bonuses that you're going to be sort of getting. Now, it does look like they've sort of maybe simplified or changed up those workers. You've not got like this player board where you're building up those workers that in quite the same way. But I think this one looks really cool. I'm almost surprised that it's not Great Western Trail The Duel or something like that, because it feels like they've shrunk the game down, but it's still for a 1 to 4 player count. So I'm very much excited for this one. I've got Great Western Trail in the collection, but maybe this would mean I don't ever play that version. We'll find out. Definitely excited for this one. That's Great Western Trail El Paso. I kickstarted this game back last year and I played it then. It's entered my top 100 because I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it at 1v1. There are other modes, but I really enjoyed this at 1v1, and I'm excited to get this one into the collection. I do think some things have slightly changed, so some of these images might be a little bit old, but effectively you are pre-planning a few actions. I'm going to run over here, aim that way, then you'll get, if you are looking at each other down these sight lines, I'm looking in the right direction, so I get a bonus. I'm playing this card, this is giving me this score, I'm rolling some dice, I'm adding those numbers together, how did you do, how did I do? It's super quick, exactly what you want from a Call of Duty sort of thing. Personally, I've got all the nostalgia for Call of Duty. I've been playing it for a lot of years, shall we say. That's scary when you start thinking that it's probably close to 2 decades. Oh dear. But you've got this great sort of board and you're moving around. Now, what I mean by that pre-planning, you're pre-planning 4 actions behind a screen, and then you reveal what they are. You play them out. Are you grabbing the objective? Have they lobbed a grenade onto the flag? Did they think you were going to go round the outside and try and flank them, and they were aiming down that way, but you've actually done something completely different, maybe even called in an airstrike on them? It's exactly what I want from a Call of Duty game. Very excited to get this one in the collection, and it's a 2025 release, so I couldn't not include this one on the list. And moving from one game that I've already played and will be in the collection to one that already is in the collection. This is Earth Abundance. This is the expansion that's going to be released. So it was kickstarted last year and I was really lucky to get a prototype version. So I have that prototype, those cards, the tweaked player boards, the seeds, all that sort of goodness in my copy of Earth. And it's not leaving. It's fantastic. And I think everyone is going to enjoy this one. So I anticipate a lot of people enjoying this game, and I also anticipate myself keep enjoying Earth Abundance because it's an absolutely brilliant game. I definitely recommend it. Expansion, sorry, not game. You do need the base copy of Earth, but if you liked Earth, it's exactly what you want. It feels like Earth still with a few cool little extra choices, and I like the new sort of abilities where it looks a bit more at your opponents and even sometimes gives you a big benefit and all of your opponents a little benefit. I really do like that. So I don't necessarily anticipate it being good because I already know it's good. You can go and check out a preview reviewy sort of thing on the channel if you want. Super Boss Monster is basically on the list because my friends over at Boxed Meeples are very much looking forward to this. This was actually on their 2025 anticipated list, which I definitely go recommend viewing that one. And I've played Boss Monster and it was definitely a good experience. I enjoyed it. But I think with loads of different expansions and content and stuff, and like there's a 10th anniversary edition already, I believe, or maybe it was a 5th one, I'm not sure. I was like, oh, I've got so many games, do I need this? But this is not necessarily like a 2.0, because it sounds like it's also backwards compatible with previous Boss Monster content. But it looks like a really good sort of box for me just to get this one. Now, rather than like a deck building, it's a dungeon building game. And there's a couple of tweaks actually with this Super Boss Monster that I like. So there's like an area to draft cards rather than it just being random. But it's still got, from what I can tell, exactly what you want, which is a lot of cool, not necessarily in-jokes, but references, and it just looks like a retro sort of video game. And I don't think that's a bad thing. You're creating this dungeon of cards, and I'm excited to sort of see what twists they've put onto it with this Super Boss Monsters version. So I anticipate this one being at least good, hopefully even better than that. Now here's a game that I didn't even know was coming out until like a day ago, so I've put it on towards the end of this list. This is Pyramido, Forgotten Treasures. Now I rather enjoyed Pyramido. I didn't expect it to get a sequel because it felt like everything was done. You're building up this pyramid and the symbols on it are scoring. It looks kind of the same, but a very interesting thing that you can see in this first screenshot is that if I zoom in, there's 2 purple gems. Now in the original you had one of each of like the coloured symbols that you could add down at a certain point, and there was also things that you'd lay over it. I can't see from these pictures any of those things that you'd lay over it, but I can see multiple gemstones on a tile, which would be massively increasing your points. I think that could be a fun twist on this one. I mean, it still looks very bright, and I think with those gemstones, it's maybe going to be slightly more appealing than the original, which had like Egyptian hieroglyph symbols. I'm definitely excited to give this one a go because I enjoyed the original Pyramido. It was a solid game. Did not expect a sequel, but I definitely want to give this one a go. Tack I am putting on the list just because it looks different and it's a very small 2-player game. Again, I like 2-player games, and you're using your dice, you're moving them around, the wind is coming, you're trying to sort of slightly disrupt your opponent. I don't know too much about this one other than it looks very small, very sort of quick to play. The numbers along the top, from what I can understand, that's when you're trying to get to that number, which is then, you know, allowing you to move up. You can see if I zoom in here, we've got like these cubes that you're trying to get towards that 9 at the top. So you're trying to move those markers up by doing this sort of stuff on this relatively small 5x5 grid with those dice. Normally I sort of shy away from dice, but a quick game with dice, I definitely want to give this one a go, and hopefully it will be at a convention so I can play it. I anticipate it being an interesting one. I don't know if it will be fantastic, I don't know if it will just be good, but it looks like an interesting one, and I like interesting designs for 2 players that aren't just the same again. So I want to try Tack. The last one, before I just talk quickly about a couple that I kickstarted that will also be available next year, is Little Soldiers from Yellow. Now, I'm not sure about this one. I'm anticipating this one being interesting and wanting to play it. So it's not got a very, from what I can just about make out, it's like I think it says 35 minutes or 30 minutes on the box. For 2 to 4 players, which is exactly the sort of wheelhouse that I think Yellow normally go for. Now, this is a game that reminds me a little bit of like the green plastic army men from Toy Story, or maybe even Small Soldiers, if you remember that film from back in the day, where you don't actually play this on a board, you have all the pieces and you play it on like your table which has stuff on it. So this is like from one of their example pictures from, I think it was taken from Spiel 2023, uploaded to Board Game Geek. And we can see that like you have a soldier up on a teacup. You have them like hidden around this plate of food. And it's just interesting. Like, they talk about range. I don't know how range is done. I don't know if that's what this band thing here is. And it's like you just use this bit of string. Is it in that sort of range? That sort of thing. I don't know. I'm intrigued. It's just very different. But if it's got a short playtime, very quick, snappy sort of experience, half an hour, I could definitely see this one being a bit of fun. Don't know much more about it other than that. Like you can see, there's a sniper, which I'm assuming is probably what this one up here on top is. Oh no, it's probably that green one down there. Then there's a grenadier. I'm just intrigued. It's certainly going to be different, and I'd like to give this one a go. So I anticipate myself trying to play this one this year. Whether it'll happen, we'll find out. And last but not least, this is sort of one that I've kickstarted. This is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles version of Unmatched Adventures. I really liked the original Tales to Amaze. I think that was really cool, the way it adds co-op opportunities into Unmatched. I can see them doing one of these a year, certainly. But this is in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle universe. But you could still be using Shredder, the bad guy, but use, say, like Bruce Lee and Deadpool and Spider-Man and Bigfoot as the heroes that are fighting against him in this co-op gameplay. I mean, it's just slightly stupid in a good way. It's exactly what you want from Unmatched, and it's got more baddies, more villains, and then minions that you can shuffle to use different ones each time. Very excited to actually get a copy of this one when it arrives, hopefully at some point this year. And the other one that I've got arriving from Kickstarter that I anticipate being good, because that's why I backed it, was Railroad Tiles. Now, I really like Railroad Inc., and that's what this game is based upon, but there is a slightly different system, like you're almost like taking the tiles from a central market to add down, and then certain tiles give you these trains or cars that are helping you score points, and there's like 15 different little expansions, some smaller or bigger than others, just adding in a few different tiles and maybe a different vehicle, that sort of thing. And it just looks lovely. It looks really refreshing sort of gameplay. I think the tiles, just the artwork is, I really like it. Here's that market that I was talking about, which change, depending on the player order, you're choosing that, which means you've got more or less tiles, you know, but maybe you're going first in the next round from what I can understand if you go for a lower down one. I just like the look of that, so I anticipate this one being good. That's why I backed it. And well, that wraps up my anticipated list. Of course, there's going to be a number of other brilliant games being released that we probably haven't even heard about. Some of these I've just found out about in the last few months. Some I literally, like Pyramido, found out about like 2 days ago. Didn't even know it existed till then. So I'm sure there's plenty of games that will be released at Gen Con, Spiel, that we just don't know exist yet, and would have made this list otherwise, sort of thing. But of course, until then, until we know about it, these are the games that I'm certainly looking forward to trying, playing, maybe owning this year. But let me know what games you are anticipating in the comment section below. What game did you not know about that you're now pumped for from the list today? And until next time, have a great 2025.